It was not the experience that I thought it was going to be. I was expecting like Rambo and Arnold
At
Schwarzenegger
17, what else do
Commando.
you?
Exactly, you know.
This
And
is what I
at that
expect.
time, it was
At least
peacetime.
I-
So I want to take the opportunity again to say, express.
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah.
Take your time.
Welcome to the Firehouse, the show dedicated to the brave men and women who serve our
Hello,
community.
everybody, and welcome to the Firehouse on WRHU 88.7. I am your host, Chris Moses, and today, sitting with me in the Firehouse is my boy. How you feeling?
What's up, buddy?
How you
Good to see
feeling,
you, Chris.
Bobby? Listen, so, Bobby, I want you to tell them your name, and I want
Sure.
you to tell them why you're here. That's the difference from my show.
Mhm.
Normal hosts usually like try to tell about the person, but I like for you to tell, you tell the audience who you are and why
Sure.
you're here. So just a quick, we're going to go into a lot, but just
Okay.
really quick, we could tell them a little bit, Bobby. So go ahead.
So certainly. So hi, everybody out there. My name's Bobby Tolley. And
And get
I
it
am
right.
the,
It's Tolley. I
Yes.
need everyone to know that. And it's not Tolley, it's Tolley. But go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a common mistake, but
Yes, it's
all
all right.
good, all good. So I am the founder and president of Fires and Drums Foundation, which is a nonprofit that exists basically to support the first responder community.
Okay.
And as you mentioned, we'll delve deeper into it,
Yeah.
but basically that's me.
That's you.
Yes,
That's
sir.
you. All right. So let's get into a little bit before we get into everything with the Fire and Drums Foundation and your brother.
Mhm.
Let's just talk just a little bit about you. Just a
Sure.
little bit about you. So what is your career? What do you do? What have you done?
So my background actually is as a military guy.
Okay,
So I did
okay.
I did 10 years in the Army, most of it in special operations world, in
Okay.
that community down Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Okay.
Deployments to Iraq, Afghanistan, Africa, all that good stuff, or bad stuff, I should say,
Okay.
more
Yeah,
accurately.
yeah.
Good experiences, bad experiences. It all
Okay.
comes together in one thing. I got out in 2016
Okay.
and came back home. I have a wife and a couple of kids,
Okay.
house and dogs and the whole
Okay.
9 yards. And they stayed here in New York in Farmingdale, where we live, while I was away doing my thing.
Okay.
So after 10 years, my wife, God bless her, she was like, okay,
That's it. It's done.
It's time to come home.
Time to come
And
home.
she was
We want
right,
you here.
because I loved what I was doing.
Yeah.
Not the war part, I'm not that crazy guy, but
Yeah.
where I was and what I was doing, we were contributing directly to protecting our country.
Yeah.
My primary focus was counterterrorism.
Okay.
So all that goes with that. And it was a great experience. I enjoyed what I was doing. It was worth it to me because I was doing something worthwhile.
Yeah.
Not everybody gets to say that in the military. You'll talk to people and they get stuck sitting in the desert in Kuwait for 6
Yeah.
months and really just
This
kind
is
of
not
hanging
what
out,
they-
not through any fault of their own, just
Of
how
course.
things go. And I was very fortunate that that was not my experience. My experience was that I was able to, along with a great team, contribute in meaningful ways. So then my wife was like, all right, well, I think
That's it.
it's
Now
time.
it's time to
And,
contribute over here.
Correct.
It's time to come over here. So shout out
talk
to the
about
wife.
yes, 100%. Thanks, Amy. So talk about serendipity, right? So I came home in May of 2016.
Okay.
So to this day, man, am I so grateful to God and whatever it is out there that gave me the ability to spend the better part of 10 months with my brother.
Yes, which we're going to get into, just
Yes.
all of that.
So
for that.
very grateful for
Yes.
that. you know,
Yeah.
So
And we're
everything
going to have to
happens
jump
for a
back
reason.
into that because you
Certainly.
came home in 2016 and
Correct.
everything happened in 2017.
Right.
So that's that. So first, I want to say thank you for your service.
No, I
That's first
appreciate
thing
that, brother.
first,
Thank
know.
you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, brother.
And
Thank you.
just really quick, what
Yeah.
makes you want to do this? Like, what made you want to go into the armed services? Like, what made you?
So I grew up in a military family. My
Okay.
dad was Marine Corps.
Okay.
My uncle was Marine Corps. My grandfather was in the Navy. So
So
of
you were
course,
kinda
so I
born
went.
into
So I went
this.
into the
This was-
Army. Yeah, I was kind of,
Yeah.
and growing up. So I actually had two runs in the military. I went in 1986. I'm going to show my
Okay.
age now.
All right, that's all right.
And did 3 years then.
Okay.
And it wasn't what I was expecting. I was also young. I was 17 years old.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah. So,
And it was not the experience that I thought it was going to be. I was expecting like Rambo and Arnold
At 17,
Schwarzenegger,
what else do
Commando.
you-
Exactly,
This
And
is what I
at that
expect.
time, it was peacetime, military,
Yeah.
so it's a very different experience. So did my time, got out, and went on and lived my life.
Yeah.
And then 2006, this was like the height of Iraq, Afghanistan, the surge.
Okay.
Casualties were at the highest rate at that time. Guys were dying almost every day at this
Wow.
point between
Wow.
the two fights that were going on. And I'm watching, like most of us, watching this on the news every day. And I just got to the point, I'm like, I cannot sit here and just watch this going on and not do something.
Something to help out.
So I went to a recruiter in Patchogue and told him, I'm like, here's my deal and this is what's going on. And he's like, at this point, I'm 37 years old or whatever it was at the time. And he's like, you sure about this? And I'm like, yeah. I'm
not
absolutely
gonna sit back
sure.
and watch.
I can't do that. So he was like, all right. And we talked about different MOS's jobs that were available.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, let's go in that direction. And off I went.
And that was it.
Sent me away for training and schooling and all
And
that good
everything like
stuff.
that.
And first deployment came up, and a unit down in North Carolina in Fort Bragg snatched me up. So they actually pulled me from the deployment I was going to be doing, and brought me into their world and trained me up on how they do things.
Okay.
And off we went.
And it was
And
off to the races.
It was off to the races. Did my thing and came home from my first deployment, and then got hired on as a contractor to be an instructor.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, which
okay.
was a great honor to me, because they felt, because it's a small community.
Yeah.
So they all know each other. Everybody knows each other.
Of course.
So if you don't have a good reputation, you're not gonna really go anywhere. So I guess I did a good enough job that
in those 3 years
when
that
they
you
were
there.
vetting me to bring me in, they felt that I would
You're a good guy
I
and
would do a good job.
Yeah.
And it was a very rewarding experience to be on the other side of the table, where now I was preparing people to head out on deployment instead of me doing the deployment
Actually doing the deployment yourself.
Correct.
Yeah. Which people need. They kind of need that. So I guess let's now. So you go into the armed services.
Mm-hmm.
You are the older brother, right?
Yep.
Of Billy.
Yes.
So what is Billy doing right now? You leave 17. I'm ready to go. I'm doing this. Where's Billy at right now? Where's Billy? Because how old is Billy at this age? You're 17.
Billy was almost 5 years junior to me.
Okay.
So I was born in 69. He was born in 74.
Okay, so he's a kid right now.
Yeah. So my first go around, he was a little guy.
He was little. So so now you come back.
Yep.
When did Billy join? And was it which department did he join? Was it Bethpage first? Hicksville first.
Hicksville is where he started his volunteer career.
At Hicksville. So what age did he start?
He was young. I don't remember the exact age.
Were you away when you came back and he was already in?
No. So actually, when I got out of the military the first go around, I wound up moving to Florida. So Billy was still here in New York.
Okay.
I was living in Florida. So I'm a young single guy living in Daytona Beach. So that was my world. Okay. Honestly, and Billy was up here doing
Daytona
this thing.
Beach that's not bad. That's not.
Yeah, it was good times, but that's for another radio show. So he was up here doing his thing, and I know he was young. I don't know the exact age, but 19, 20, 21, somewhere in there. Young guy, and our family lived in Hicksville. Our grandma and grandpa were in Hicksville, and that was kind of like the mothership for the family.
Okay.
So that's kind of like that was like the center of the world for everybody. Okay. So that's where he was living, and I guess he was always interested in the fire service. Okay. I have a picture of him at home somewhere, like 5 years old, with the little firefighter costume on, with the fake mask and the helmet, and So he was like, I was destined to go into the military. He was destined to be a firefighter, 100%. And he did a long time with Hicksville. Became a lieutenant.
Okay.
I think he was in, I forget the rescue company. 938 is the truck number. Okay. The only reason I remember 938 is because that was part of his email address that he had for a long time.
Yeah. Listen, A buff. You gotta love a
Yes,
buff.
yes. No, he was. He
was
was a buff of buffs. So many stories that I got from his firehouse in the city from guys, how,
Okay.
like they would tease him, in a good way. He would like take trips to Pennsylvania
Okay.
to this like farmers market thing or flea market that was focused on firefighter stuff.
Wow.
Vendors selling either used things or, stuff like old helmets or like
that was his thing.
fire. That was his thing. And the guys at the firehouse were like,
Dude,
really? That's what you do in your off time,
He's like, yeah. So
But that was his thing.
That's my thing.
He loved light bars.
Okay.
That was like
his car lit up like Christmas.
Oh, it did.
Know.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Oh yeah, he worked on the lights on the rigs at the firehouse. It was crazy. So that was his thing. And then in 2003, he took the test.
Yeah, so let's just back up a little bit. So,
sure.
So Billy is now in the fire department now. He's in. He wasn't in any juniors or anything like that. He just 18 kind of joined, right?
Correct.
So now he's in. He's went to and started rising to the ranks.
Yes.
So now he's lieutenant, captain. Did he make chiefs or anything like that?
No, I think as far as he got was lieutenant.
Lieutenant. So he's in lieutenant now. He's doing his thing, but then he also takes the test.
Correct.
Right? Takes the test for FDNY.
Correct.
All right. So now he takes the test for FDNY, and that's where you are, right? You said 2003?
Yes.
Okay. So he takes the test. Does he takes the test in 2003 or he gets in?
No, I think
Fire
it was
is a family-owned company built on trust. Our trucks are standardized models crafted from years of real feedback with competitive pricing, top-tier national dealer network, and lead time in months, not years. We're ready when you are. Proudly based in Milledgeville, Georgia, visit Fouts Fire on social media and drop a comment and let them know that the Firehouse on WRHU 88.7 FM sent you.
No, I think it was like for a lot of guys, it was a several-year wait.
Okay,
I
so
believe.
he took
Again,
the test.
don't know the exact numbers, but
No,
it was a few years.
Okay.
Because 9/11,
Okay.
he was still with Hicksville.
Okay.
And I wish I would have brought it with me. Jeez. I have a picture of him standing in the rubble
Wow.
on the night of September 11th.
Okay.
Because if you remember back to that day, all the volunteer companies started pouring in to either like backfill for the active units or
that's right, or right to the scene,
or just provide support to houses where there was nobody left, unfortunately, So yeah, I remember that day vividly, like most of us do. It was a little bit more personal for me, just because my brother, I got the call, I want to say probably like 4 p.m. Hey, Bobby, we're heading in, man. And I was like, shit, can I come? Which I knew the answer to that, but I would have jumped on and gone in and did something, picked up rocks, whatever
it was.
So I was like, all right, brother, just, obviously, God bless, be careful, love you, stay safe. And off he went, and didn't hear from him until the next morning. So that was rough for the family because
just worried, like not sure.
Yeah,
what's
because again, trying to remember back to that day, if I remember correctly, there was a building collapse later in the day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I forget which World Trade number it was. And, we were like, oh my God,
could he be a part
was he
of
anywhere
this?
near that?
And he's not getting
communications
to his phone,
were non-existent.
You
right.
can't do anything.
So it was a little scary, but everything turned out to be okay, and he came home, and I think that just drove him even harder
to do this,
to pursue that,
and to pursue this career.
Not that he needed any more motivation, but
but this was even more.
Correct.
Was that little step up? So
yes,
let's just back up just a little bit more,
Certainly.
right? So it's just you and Billy, right?
Correct.
So it's just you and Billy growing up.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Billy. Was he the annoying little brother? Or what?
No, I was the bullying older brother.
You was the bullying older brother to Billy.
But not too bad because we had a unique relationship, I think, even though we had a 5-year gap in age. We moved a lot as kids. So all we really had was each other.
Wow.
We didn't have like a home base, and kids that were on the same street as us that we didn't have childhood friends all through our life, It was him and I.
That was it. It was just you
And
two.
so that I think that created, that whole catch-22 thing, because it made us so close, which then later on in life made it that much more painful.
Yeah, because that bond was created. It's just
Correct,
you two.
correct. Because unfortunately, I know a lot of people that have siblings that it's the opposite relationship, where not necessarily volatile or bad, but there really isn't much of a relationship with their siblings. And I feel bad for them, because I feel like they're missing out. But I get it. I think that's kind of like the normal thing. So I think with Billy and I moving around so much, it created that bond that we had, and so grateful for.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into Hicksville, right? So he's in Hicksville. He does that. He takes the test in 2003, right? Test is there. When does he actually get on the job?
So he got on in 2003.
So he got.
So he probably took the test.
So he probably took tests in like
99, 2000,
okay,
2001,
so he took it from before.
somewhere.
Right.
I know it was several years that he had to wait.
That he had wait. So he got on, and so he got on the job. So
Correct.
appointment date was in 2003. So now he's on the job. I know he is excited. I know the first thing he's probably calling is you. Like, dude, look,
we were so excited.
I am on, man. I am here. That graduation is always amazing.
Yes,
it's a great graduation.
Mayor Bloomberg was the mayor at the time.
At the time.
So he was the one that did the commencement speech. And that was an awesome experience.
Great graduation.
Yeah, it was. I actually got to go to 2 in that same building that same year, because my cousin Nick is NYPD.
Okay.
And he graduated 2003.
So you got to.
So I got to see both of them graduate.
Wow,
so enormous amount of pride in the family at that time.
I can imagine
doing the thing.
Yeah. Police, you got it all.
Yep.
All right. So now, Billy's in. Billy's in here, and he's still in Hicksville, right? So he's still in Hicksville, doing that. When does he move on to Bethpage? When does he join Bethpage, and why? Is it a move or what?
Sure. So Bethpage came later on, because at this point he's now on the job in the city, right?
Okay.
And one of the places that we lived, going back a little bit in our timeline, we lived in Bethpage for several years.
Okay.
As growing up, I actually wound up attending Bethpage High School.
Oh, okay.
So there was familiarity there with that town. So Billy got married. They were having a baby.
Okay.
So the apartment life needed to go.
Yeah.
They needed a home.
You needed a home. Yeah.
Right. So
the next step.
Bethpage was the place.
Okay.
So at this point, I forgot how many years he had on at this point, but so they bought a house in Bethpage.
Okay.
And lived in Bethpage for a while.
And of course, the first thing he's going to do is look at the volunteers.
Right. So he's FDNY. He's doing his thing. He's living the life as the man in the ultimate fire department.
Yep.
In my humble opinion, of course.
Yeah.
But that still wasn't enough.
It wasn't.
He still wanted to scratch the itch.
No, I have to go over there. Not to mention, it's besides just scratching the itch, a lot of guys that are in FDNY want to lend their knowledge, right?
100%.
This is what I do every day. Not to take away from what anyone else does, but that's what these men and women do every single day. So it's like, I'm going to bring that knowledge back to my hometown where I live to train these guys and kind of help out.
100%.
So I'm pretty sure that was his itch. It's like, y'all want to teach. I want to show them. Do this. Plus, I also want to be here and do that, right?
Yeah. So he had a knack for it too. That he loved imparting knowledge and sharing knowledge from his experience as a fireman.
Okay.
Even like the probies that would come in to his firehouse in the city. He was one of the guys that would always make sure to take time to sit with them and go over things with them. And Bethpage was no different. Yeah. He loved showing people the ropes, as it were.
Okay.
And and Bethpage, I think, was pretty fortunate. I can't speak to all the numerous volunteer departments that are on the island and around the area, but I can say like Bethpage was fortunate because they had at least, I think at least half a dozen guys that were on the job in the city that were also part of the Bethpage department. So they had a good amount of knowledge there for the volunteer department to learn from.
To learn from.
Yes.
So just a family in the whole seems like you and Billy were taught about just service leadership. And
nothing better than service.
Nothing better than service. So, I mean, kudos to your parents, and
Yeah.
that raised these these wonderful human beings that you are. But I was reading through a couple of the bios, and I went on the website for Fire and Drums Foundation. I was looking at his story.
Yeah.
There's a story in there I had to ask a question about. This
Certainly.
story is about guinea pigs. Explain what that is. I saw it and I'm like, I gotta ask Bobby, like,
Yeah.
what happened there? Like, what did Billy do?
So he had Bella, his daughter.
Okay.
She's actually going to be celebrating her sweet 16 this coming April, actually. So
Okay.
I can't believe she's 16
Wow,
years
look
old.
at that. You see how
Yeah.
time flies?
It does, man. Isabella. So yeah, so she was 8 at the
Mhm.
time of when everything happened. So she's a little girl. I don't know if he was
And
picking.
he has just the one.
Yes.
Just the one. Okay.
Yep. Yep. So I don't remember the specifics behind it. I don't know if he was picking her up from something or just went to the store or whatever. Anyway, so
Yeah.
he has her in the car. It's pouring rain, and he's driving down the street that the house is on.
Okay.
And I guess he looks over and he sees these guinea pigs just loose on the side of the road or something. So he being Billy, he's just not like, oh, look at that, and he keeps
And
driving.
keep going like probably everyone else would have
Exactly.
done.
No, he stopped and he got out of the car and he's like, I got to do something, whatever. Gets him in the box. And then, it was funny because Bella, again, she's super young at the time, and she's got the car window open and she's yelling, Daddy, come on, it's raining. What are you doing? And she's like yelling at him, whatever. And then she must have hit the power button on the window. So she's closing the window on her own head and she's screaming at her dad, why are you closing the window on me? And he's like, I'm not even touching
You're doing it. You see
anything.
me over here.
And then they get
Yeah.
home and of course, she rats him out to her mother, Daddy closed the window on me. It was just a whole fiasco.
Daddy closed the window on me and came home with 2 rats because that's all they know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the guinea pigs came home with 2 rats.
Yeah, so came home with the guinea pigs,
Yeah.
which were supposedly, I don't know, 2 females or 2 males.
Okay.
And that turned out to be not accurate.
Okay. They started having babies.
Yeah. So, and then, so they wound up with these animals in the house, and my sister-in-law Marie was, I'll say, not excited about the prospect of having these
Yeah.
stupid things in the house, So that's kind of a synopsis, I think, of who Billy was as a human being.
As a human being,
and
to stop on the road and pick up some guinea pigs
Yes.
that nobody else would have done.
Absolutely.
And you said to this day, or for a while they had those guinea pigs.
Yes.
For a while.
Yep.
You gotta love that. You gotta love that.
100%.
Yeah.
I have a kind of a mantra that I try to live by and share with other people of, don't be an observer in life, be a participant.
That's right. I love that.
Whatever that looks like for you. It doesn't mean joining the
happen.
volunteer service, which again, I mean, you should if you feel like you want to serve your community. I can't think of a better way to do it than through the volunteer fire service.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be that. It could be
Just-
anything. Just go out and do something for others, for the community, that you live in, the community, as a larger area, whatever it is that looks like to you. Do something.
Do something.
Don't just
Okay.
watch the world occur before
Okay.
your eyes,
Be a
Be a
participant.
part of it in some way.
I love that. I
Yes,
love
sir.
that. All right, so let's get into a little bit of Fire and Drums Foundation,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Let's get through the story of why you even decided to start that, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
For over 50 years, Fire News has been the preferred publication for fire, rescue, and EMS heroes. Fire News print edition reaches Long Island, 17 states, and the District of Columbia. Visit firenews.com to see the latest news, read their digital prints, or follow them on Facebook and Instagram pages. In print, online, on social media, Fire News has you covered. Visit firenews.com. And if you go ahead and go visit on Instagram, please leave a comment and tell them that WRHU 88.7 The Firehouse sent you.
Okay. So April 20th, 2017, Billy's Firehouse, which is engine 286, ladder 135.
Okay.
It's in Glendale, in Queens,
Okay.
on Myrtle Avenue. So quick sidebar, every firehouse has like a nickname that they attach to themselves,
Yep.
and they get patches made and
Yeah,
all that
of
stuff,
course.
right?
Yep.
So for these guys, they were the Myrtle Turtles.
Myrtle turtles, baby.
because myrtle is like orange. Like, what rhymes with this? You know, their options were pretty limited, so they wound up going with turtles, and their logo is like the Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
of-
Okay.
From back in the day, and
Yeah.
they keep making comebacks. These
Yeah.
guys, the Myrtle Turtles. So, yeah, so he's a turtle now, and this is where maybe I don't get the specifics correctly. So forgive
Okay.
me, anybody out there listening or watching this. Nothing intentional meant by it, but my understanding was that they got a call to a fire where it was actually not their first due area.
Yep.
It was
okay.
like they were
Yeah.
like second due or third
yeah.
due, even
Okay.
maybe. I'm not 100% on that.
Okay.
So they get called out, and they show up to this fire, and this is what you would typically call a very basic run-of-the-mill type fire.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a fully involved building. It wasn't
Nothing
multiple
that you
alarms.
hear TV and see all the
Right. Just
shows about. It's just
sure,
regular.
just a standard
just a
thing.
regular
you know,
job,
an
yeah.
apartment was. I think a mattress caught on fire. If I
Okay.
understand correctly, someone left burning incense, and
Okay.
they weren't home, and that's what started the fire.
Okay.
It's usually something, silly as that. I try not to wrap my head around the idea that my brother died because of friggin' incense burning,
Yeah.
but so I try not to focus on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so they get there, they're doing their thing, and so Billy's in the ladder. He's ladder 135. That was his rig. So a truckie, right? I think
Yeah,
is the term.
there you go.
Right.
That's
So
right,
he was a
truckie, you got
truckie. Yes, I've learned a little bit over these
You learned
last
over
years.
these last few
Picked up on
years.
some of the things that they taught me. But yeah, so he's a truckie. So he gets up in the bucket to head up to the roof.
Okay.
To do their thing up there. And the design of the bucket, they never really got a specific answer, I think, at least in my opinion. There was the investigation after, but long story short, save you the minutia of all the details, the bucket got stuck on the parapet of the roof of the building.
Okay.
So the chauffeur is on the pedestal trying to free this thing. Billy's up in the bucket trying to free it, trying to figure out what's going on. And I guess eventually, this is where the details are hard to figure out, because really at the end of the day, only God and my brother know exactly what happened.
Yeah.
But long story short, hydraulic pressure built up to the point where then the bucket released and
Wow.
ejected him from the bucket.
Wow.
And
And how far up was
5 stories.
5 stories up? Okay.
Yeah. So
That's
that was
rough.
that was that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, with that happening, and where are you with that, right? So this happens. I'm pretty sure we all get the calls, we all get all of that. Where is your head when all of this is like kind of going on?
Oh man. So at the time I was actually working in Uniondale at RXR Plaza,
Okay.
the big
Yep,
the buildings.
definitely. I'm from Uniondale.
Yeah, so So
Yeah.
I was working at the time. I was working for a security company,
Yeah.
private security company. So I'm in the office, and we actually had like this terrible phone signal
Okay.
in the building, like cell phone signal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eventually, I get a call from my sister-in-law, which was out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
So I answer the phone, and it was actually my sister-in-law's sister
Wow.
on the phone,
Okay.
and I hear her voice. So now I'm like, okay, so now my
what's
radar's
going
up.
on? Yeah.
And again, paraphrasing, I don't remember exactly how the
Of course,
conversation
yeah.
went, but the phrase that will ring in my ears for the remainder of my time on this earth, or Billy is gone, is
Wow.
what. Again, she said other things, but I think that's all I really heard.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was trying to process it in my brain, because I knew after I hung up with her, I kind of felt like I said, "Okay, thanks for letting me know," as if she called to tell me that the flowers were ready or something.
Yeah, 'cause you don't.
Like,
Yeah.
I just
You're still trying to.
I'm trying to
grasp,
process,
Yeah.
and I know now I was in a state of shock.
Yeah.
And in the moment, because of my military background, I knew that fundamentally, from a practical standpoint, I knew that I was going into shock,
Yeah.
but
no, you can't be prepared for it.
Right.
You're still human.
Nothing,
no matter
right.
what.
You know,
Nothing prepares
exactly.
for that.
You know, I, in hindsight, I had thought that my military time and the experiences that I had and the things that I saw and the losses that occurred during my time would have prepared me in some way for that. And I can say it didn't make a damn bit of difference at all. Did not matter. I could have been a guy that was a baker my entire life for all that mattered, you know. So hung up with them, went into my boss's office and somehow was able to get the words out of what phone call I just got. And quick shout out, if I may, his name is Nick Arletta, and he runs he has his own private security company now. And he was amazing. You know, he was a former veteran. He was a former military guy, veteran as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And you know, I think back to what I try to put myself in his shoes. What must it have been like for him to be standing there in front of me, a guy that just got a phone call that his brother's dead?
Yeah.
You know, and I can't imagine. How do you
what
handle that? What do you do? And
what do you say?
he just was there.
You know,
for
there's
me.
nothing I can say to help or fix this. It's
Yes. So then started making the phone calls, called my wife,
call everyone,
anybody that I could. You know,
now you're trying to seeking information.
My mom lives in Florida. So she called, and actually it was my stepdad, Frank, that was on the phone.
Okay.
And another thing to this day that sticks with me, all I can hear is my mother screaming in the background.
Yeah.
And he's going, what the hell's going on? And yeah, craziness. So I get a phone call from Captain Miller from FDNY. Bobby, please give me a call. I call him back. We wind up connecting. He's like, where are you right now? I'm like, I'm at my job in Uniondale. He's like, okay, we're sending someone for you. Okay. So stood outside for what felt like years. In effect, it was probably about an hour. And a unit from Highway 2, NYPD.
Okay.
Came pulling up in the parking lot, lights flashing, and a gentleman named George Lodi, police officer at the time with the unit, picked me up. So got in his vehicle and off we went to drive to Wyckoff Hospital in Brooklyn where they had my brother.
Yeah. And
got there and, you know, even I think about like some random silly things. The ride there was incredibly uncomfortable because I'd never, fortunately, knock on wood, I was never in a squad car. You know, so that was my first experience with that, and incredibly uncomfortable. You know, and
not made for comfort.
Yes, and New York City drivers, God bless them, not getting out of the way
of
for
course,
you know he's got the sirens and the lights going.
Doesn't matter in New York
because at this point it's like, I think the incident occurred around 2:20 p.m.
Okay.
But by the time they got to me to get me, it's now like after 4.
Okay.
So it's like rush hour.
Yeah. So
you know?
and you're going
and we're on the Grand Central and
it's
it's
nothing
just
but traffic.
Right.
Yeah.
So he drove like a madman. God bless him. Like he was driving like a bat out of hell to get me to my brother.
Yeah.
You know, and God bless him for that. And you know, just little things and that I was grateful for at the time, and you know the care and the respect, and just it was an amazing thing. You know, something I wish I didn't have the experience of, but you know it happened.
Yeah.
So
and they made it easy. They made it as easy as they can. You know, and be there.
Try to appreciate the things that you know, the small things, the small gestures, and you know he got me there. And you know I remember he was on the radio calling in, and he's like, you know, so-and-so en route with the package. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's a first for me, referred to as the package. Okay. Which ironically is a military thing also, you know, rolling out on a mission to a target and picking, you know, grabbing up a bad guy. That's now the package, you know, bringing the package back. So I thought it was kind of ironic. I'm like, I don't like this. Yeah. But
so, you know, we're not going to go into so many details, but so now, you know, all this is going on. I'm pretty sure you have to, you know, get services, you know, all of this stuff. Yeah. With your mind going through all of this, when does Fire and Drums Foundation come in? Like, when do you say, I'm going to do this? Because it's a lot that you're already going through emotionally, the family. This is something that's going to stay with you forever. This is not something that's easy, you know? So when does this Fire and Drums decide to, you know, happen? Where did it come
pretty
from?
early on.
Okay.
I can't give you like a specific like day, but I would say probably shortly after all of the pomp and circumstance was done.
Yeah.
You know, the cemetery and the funeral and all
Mhm.
that. Once all that was done and things started to calm down, as it were, I think it was at that point where I was like, okay, I need to do something. And part of that, there were two thoughts to it. One was that I wanted the world to know the name Billy Tolley and who he was. That was like my primary life mission now
Yeah.
at that point.
Okay.
But it was also because of which I referred to earlier, the amazing community that is the FDNY and the first responder world as a whole.
That's right.
You know, because I really didn't have much knowledge or input of it because that was my brother's world.
Yeah.
You know, like I was incredibly proud of him. It was amazing. You know, I loved what they were doing, but I didn't really have much insight into it until this occurred. And I was thrown neck deep into it. And my brother's Firehouse, the entire department, how amazing they were, how much care they gave to my family. You know,
and this is Bethpage, just so everyone knows.
Bethpage and FDNY, both of them, they all came together. Yes, 100%. I always make the point. I always try to make sure that I recognize how amazing Bethpage was during this process, because a line of duty death and the funeral and all that goes with it, it becomes this gigantic thing.
Yes.
And the FDNY, unfortunately, is well versed in this. So they kind of come in and they kind of take over, if you will, but not in a way where they push
Bethpage out
of
side, no.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Bethpage was very much a huge part of the process, you know, providing the firehouses and places for the guys to stay and, you know, setting up food tables and all of those things. So I always, so I want to take the opportunity again to say, express.
Yeah. Take your time.
Yeah.
Take your time.
To express gratitude that I could probably never fully convey to Bethpage and those guys and how amazing they were in those days afterward. Just can't say enough about them. So thank you.
Yeah.
Again.
No, thank you. Well, thank you, Bethpage. Thank you so much. So, you decide that you're gonna start, you know, fire and drum. So we got the fire part. Let's lighten up the mood a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Please
take a step. Let's lighten it up a little bit. We understand the fire part of fire and drums.
Right.
Why drums?
Okay.
We gotta get into why drums. All right.
100%.
Because when you say drums in the fire department, we're thinking drums as in, you know, you're going for the parades and stuff like that. That's not the drums you're talking about.
Exactly. Yes.
So
very different.
Explain the drums that you're talking about in Fire and Drum Foundation.
Right. So my brother, his two big passions in life, being a fireman and being a drummer in a band. So he was in a death metal band. The name of the band, which still exists and they still tour, is Internal Bleeding.
Look at that.
Great guys though. Love those dudes. So like super heavy death, can't understand a word they're saying, but amazingly talented, awesome guys. That started back in like 1992. Billy loved playing the drums, got together with this guy, Chris Pervalis, what's up, brother? And started this band, Internal Bleeding. And that band toured Europe multiple times.
Wow.
Toured in Russia.
Wow.
Prior to Russia becoming the evil empire again. You know? Where else did they go? Singapore or Malaysia.
So they were all over. This is not just nationwide. This is worldwide.
Yeah. And then, of course, everywhere across the United States, most of the states in the country as well. So, those guys got out there and toured and did the thing. And he loved it. And my brother being my brother, a lot of the guys at his firehouse in the city had no idea until after he died about this piece of his life.
Yeah.
They're like, what? Billy was a drummer? Well,
They
let me
didn't
pull
even
up.
know.
What's the name of the band? Internal
And then
Bleeding.
they look it up
Well,
and see
let me
it.
pull it up on Spotify and press play. Like, well, okay,
Wow, Billy.
that was Billy. You know, because he was a humble guy. You
Yeah,
know, like
yeah.
even like Fires. Like he would, you know, we would talk on the phone, be like, yeah, you know, we caught a job today, whatever. But that's really was it.
That was it.
It
He's
wasn't
not
like,
telling
oh yeah, you know, we
everything
had a
he did.
4-alarm fire, and
Uh-huh.
you know, yeah, he was just a very quiet, humble guy, and yeah, he didn't really share with the world. He didn't need to. He didn't need to tell everybody what he was doing with his
Yeah.
life. He didn't feel it necessary, which I always respected tremendously. And I try to think. I like to think I'm humble to a degree as well. You know, that's for others to judge, though, I guess. But yeah, so when it came time, I'm sorry. So when it came time to start the foundation and come up with a name, I didn't want it to be the Billy Tolley Foundation.
Okay.
You know, I guess I kind of felt like, you know, it deserved more of a, more meaning to it.
Yeah.
So like, okay, tossing back and forth ideas. And I'm like, all right, well, you know, what were his passions in life? You know, could we go in that direction? Or someone kind of prompted me that, you know, like, well, what, you know, Billy's passions besides being I'm like, oh, well, drummer. I'm like, all right,
Loved it.
well, you know, fires. So fires and drums.
There you go.
And it kind of
And
came
it just
together.
came together,
And then
and it
obviously the
happened.
logo, the drumstick, and the
Yep.
fire axe,
Yep.
and all that. So that, yeah, that's how
That's
that
how it
that's
kinda
how
came
that
in.
came to
That's
be.
how we got
Yep,
Fire and
my
Drums
brother's passions, fires
Foundation,
and drums.
both of his passions.
Yes, sir.
So tell me a little bit, because you know he was married. So just his wife's name, his you know his daughter I know is Bella. So
Yes.
Isabella, you said, or
Isabella, yep.
All right. So
yep.
just you know just shout them out. Just you know.
Yep. So his wife is Marie.
Okay.
Yeah. What's up,
Hey, Marie,
Pena?
how you doing? How you doing?
Yeah, her family's amazing. Her mom and dad, great people. You know, she's got two sisters.
Okay.
I believe one older, one younger, maybe, or I'm not sure exactly. Sorry, guys. But yeah, so they're still in the house again
Okay.
because you know, shout out to Tunnels to Towers.
Okay.
Tunnels to Towers came in very early on in the process after Billy dying and committed to, you know, what they do. And that was, you know, paying off the mortgage to the house.
To the house to help out.
Yeah. So they did. And which was great because that enabled, you know, Marie and Bella to stay in the house.
Their home.
In their
and, you know,
home that they
that
bought
they built
together. And right across the street and a little bit like catty corner to the house is a little park. So quick segue, if I may.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
It was one of those small public parks
Mhm.
where it didn't even have a name. It was like Bethpage B4, like
Okay,
letter
yeah.
B4. It didn't even
Didn't
have
even
a name. It just
yet,
basically
yeah.
had like a basketball court and some like playground stuff.
Yeah.
So one of the things that the foundation did was we decided to.
And this is Fire and Drums, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
Fires and
okay.
Drums. We decided to do something with the park. So in partnership with the town of Oyster Bay,
Okay.
who were a huge help, they were awesome. We revitalized the park,
Okay.
and it is now the William Tolley Memorial Park,
Okay.
dedicated to the memory of Billy and every other first responder that dedicated their lives to the service to the community.
Wow. I love
And
that.
one of the things that we did was we purchased and had installed a playground set that looks like a fire truck.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I wish I had a picture to show
Yeah, I
you.
love that.
It is
They
the
will love
coolest
that.
thing, you know, because we were talking about, okay, well, what can we do to besides putting a sign and, you know, doing some repaving and whatever, what else could we do? And that's what we came up with. And, you know, my wife, Amy, she kind of led the way on the research and found this company out there that made this playground set and coordinated with them and had the whole thing put together. And it showed up. And we talk about a project, man. It was no joke. You know, we all thought, you know, I'll get a couple of guys together and a case of beer. We'll have it up. No.
It's a project.
So another shout out, Richie Schmidt, who's a rescue guy in the city and also lives in Bethpage. He was indispensable. Without him, that thing would not have been built, you know, because he had all sorts of material and instruments to make sure everything was level and all that stuff. And we came together as a community, you know, and got that done and got that put together. So
I love that.
So that's the street that they live on.
And
the street was also renamed William Tolley Street or whatever. And another quick sidebar, just to make you laugh. Town of Oyster Bay is there, FDNY, Bethpage Fire Department, my entire family, this whole ceremony, and they do the whole thing, and they do the big reveal. And what did it say? It said William Tolley, fur fighter. They forgot the E. So it said fur fighter. So I'll be honest, I was pissed off.
I know, you were like,
I was like, are you flipping kidding me?
Yeah, like,
you know, like I was in the inside. I didn't react, but I was mad.
yeah.
But what brought me back down quickly was everybody else was hysterical laughing.
Yeah.
Because all they could say is how much of a kick out of this Billy would be
would.
getting right now. Billy would be
He'd
hysterical
probably like,
laughing.
Keep it.
Yes. So that kind of brought me back down.
Brought
I'm
you
like,
back
you know what?
down.
Yeah, it's a valid point.
Yeah.
Billy would be laughing, not yelling right
cracking
now.
up.
So, yeah.
I love that.
So all amazing experiences, and yeah. So yeah, Marie and Bella living in Bethpage still, which is great. You know, we're one town over. I'm in Farmingdale.
So you're right there. Okay.
And maintain. Speaking of the Bethpage guys, still maintain a great relationship with them. Josh is the reason that I'm here today.
Yep.
You know,
We're gonna get Josh on the show too. So
yeah,
we're gonna get him.
Yeah, Josh will talk. I think.
We'll get him on the show too.
Absolutely.
So, before we get out of here, just
Yes,
how can they donate and find out more about Fires and Drums Foundation?
So social media, of course, the necessary beast that it is.
Yep.
So we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. You can just search Fires and Drums Foundation. It'll come right up. We have a website. It's firesanddrums.org.
Okay.
Go on there. You can read about what we do. The website itself is just something that I kind of put together without much knowledge or experience, but it's out there, and you kind of can see we put stories on there about, stories about Billy, who he was. We share what we do, how we help the families that we've helped over these years now. And that's the key part to this. I want to make sure that I reiterate to everybody that the foundation, Fires and Drums, is basically my wife and I.
Wow.
Along with some big help from close friends and family, but it's really my wife and I. So we don't have overhead. The money that comes in goes where it needs to go. We don't take any money out of it. There's no salary for me or anything like that. I never could do that. That'd be offensive to me. People are donating their hard-earned money. I want to make sure that every penny of that is going where it needs to go, and it does.
Okay.
So we donate to families. As you and I were talking outside, the money is primarily going to go to non-line of duty incidents, because that's where the money is most needed. So anybody that's watching or listening out there, if you know of a family that is in the fire service that has some circumstances that occurred because of his or her service to the community, reach out to us. We're here to help in any way that we can. So again, it's firesanddrums.org.
Just drop that website one more time. Firesanddrums.org.
And then Fires and Drums Foundation on Facebook and Instagram as well. If you care to make a donation, you can go through either one of those platforms. It'll bring you where you need to go. You can make a cash donation. We sell, we have merch that we sell. You can see the hats. We have T-shirts. I have really cool glasses that have like the fire axe. Have you seen the glass that has like the golf ball with a bullet?
Yeah.
Now they have one with a little fire axe.
Okay.
And I saw that. I'm like, all right, this was meant to be. So we have these really cool fire axe glasses with the axe in it that have Fires and Drums. And all the money all the merch that we sell is to help support what we do. So, thank you everybody for listening to us chat about this.
There we go. Listen.
Yeah, think about Fires and Drums. If you have a few extra bucks and you want to donate to a worthy cause, I like to think we are that worthy cause.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming down to the Firehouse and just telling Billy's story, and being open with us and telling us everything. But Fires and Drum, I hope y'all heard it. .org, is that right?
Firesanddrums.org.
Okay. Again, thank you so much for coming down.
Chris,
thank you for your service. Thank you for your family just being who they are and serving throughout every facet that you can think of. So
Appreciate it,
thank
brother.
you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank
All
you.
right. I hope you all enjoyed that. We just heard from Bobby Tolley. Did I say it right?
You got it, brother.
I got it. There we go. Because make sure they know Bobby Tolley about his brother, Billy Tolley. And he was Bethpage firefighter and also FDNY, about his life as a firefighter. I hope you all enjoyed the conversation. Please like, share, subscribe, do all of those things. I'm your host, Chris Moses, and please tune in next week for another great conversation in the Firehouse.